RJ.
And I'm Sean.
And we watched a movie.
Yes, we did.
We watched the new Billie Eilish documentary.
Oh, yeah.
The World's a Little Blurry. Probably you're going too quick. That's the answer.
Yeah, or it's some sort of metaphor. We're
For
not
what,
sure.
Sean? You don't know?
Being a teen?
Oh, being a teen.
Yeah,
You have to think back real hard on those years,
real
Sean.
hard. I've been not a teenager for
A
longer
non-teen.
than I was ever a teen. Well, I guess that's not saying much, but I'm
But you're
more than
old.
a double teen
Yes,
now.
double teen.
Triple teen.
Oh, it's starting to sound like one of your favorite burgers, but
Yeah.
so this Billie Eilish documentary by RJ Cutler is on Apple TV and it's out. It is out and ready for you to watch it. But should you? Billie Eilish is 19 years old right now. They started filming when she was like 15, turning 16. They celebrated, I think, up until her 18th birthday in the documentary. She's a very young woman. The documentary is more than 2 hours long.
It felt long. I'm glad to hear it was actually more than 2 hours.
It was more than 2 hours long for just a couple years of a very young woman's life. And yet, I don't think there's a lot of filler in this. I think, really, she's had an explosive couple of years.
Yeah, well,
And-
you probably know that without even watching the documentary.
Sure. I'm a fan of Billie Eilish, but like a radio fan. I like her music.
she makes
but
good music.
I'm not a teenage girl, so I don't need to like do a deep dive into everyone I like's life anymore. It's not really a thing
That
once
moment
you're
has
more
passed.
than 14, I think.
Yeah.
And yet it was interesting to get to know her. I have to say, I enjoyed this documentary. But I enjoyed it because it is rather intimate. It follows her from the beginning of her career when she's like 15 years old. And her brother puts a random song they wrote on SoundCloud and it just kind of explodes and gets turned into like a record deal. And suddenly she is the biggest artist of the year. This happens so astronomically quickly.
It does, yeah. Because they are literally recording this album in her brother's bedroom at their childhood home.
Yes. And it's kind of cool that they were prescient enough to be filming even then, to have this footage. Of course, I guess at this day and age, everybody's filming all the time.
Yeah, to an extent, but I do get the feeling, it's not explicit in this documentary, but they're homeschooled. Like, this seems to have been the plan for Billie Eilish and her brother, is they're going to be music stars.
Well, I don't know if you were paying close enough attention to the documentary then, because she was actually a dancer
That's true.
and didn't start pursuing a career in music until she got hurt dancing.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm wrong.
So maybe you are wrong. Wouldn't be the first
Wouldn't be
time.
the first time.
But here's the thing. Billie Eilish, you probably, or at least passingly familiar with her. Hard to miss. She's been everywhere. Looks like a rapper, dresses like a rapper, I should say.
Sort of, yeah.
Dresses like a rapper, moves like a rapper, has the voice of an angel. Has the voice of a Disney princess who smokes 3 packs a day.
Yeah.
Like, she's got a husky tone
Yeah.
to her voice, but she's a soprano. Like, it's a gorgeous voice. It's just slightly huskier than would normally be cast in a Disney movie, let's say. What a weird combination.
Yeah.
Clearly, she does have a lot of hip-hop influences. And yet, when she and her brother, Finneas, sit down to write, they do have some pretty strong beats. But my goodness, definitely they were on the cusp of a sound, a new sound, I think, for 2020.
Yep.
And they've really sort of helped to shape the direction that pop music, even though I think that word probably terrifies her.
Oh, I'm sure it
But
does.
you're on the radio, hun. Like it or not, you're
That's
pop.
what she is. Mm-hmm. She's in that category.
Yeah. So, we really do get to, like Sean said, sit in her childhood home, get to know the whole family because these are early days of her career. She is still a minor. And they travel as a family unit.
They do, yeah.
Now, of course, her brother actually is part of the whole act. They write together, they record, he's her producer, and he plays instruments in her band. So
yeah, it's definitely the two of them as a joint endeavor.
It's called Billie Eilish, but it really could be Billie and
Finneas.
It's
just not as catchy.
Billie and Finny. It is not as catchy. And she is the face of this thing. Although, a very reluctant face, it feels a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't blame her for that.
Yeah.
I think her complaints are valid about having to schmooze with record execs after a concert, you know?
Right. But
No
she
one
just
wants that.
seems like kind of a shy person.
She does.
Doesn't really like the fame side of what's happening.
No.
Is a little terrified of performing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
She's not very performative in that way.
Until she gets up there. Then
yes,
she gets
and
into
then
it.
she's super high energy and she's a perfectionist, wants to deliver the very best. I think she has a lot of respect for her fans and for what she does. I think she loves music, and it is an incredible privilege to be able to do that as your living and then become a millionaire from doing it. So it is a very privileged position to be in, but not always an easy one.
No.
Aside from not always being great at the performing part, she also struggles with the songwriting part. So you really get to know her and her creative process and her like creative boundaries and where she really hits those roadblocks, which is sort of interesting to see, I think, and maybe encouraging to see that it's not as easy.
Just magically happening in 20 minutes.
And I think because she writes with her brother, who she sees as more innately talented than she is, and I think she has an inferiority complex because of that. And the record label has sort of put him in the awkward position of wrangling her at the same time, which is not fair to him or to her.
No.
She would rather write with no pressure, and he's being told that there is a deadline. But
it's very nice to see in that respect, because he's protective of her and he
so
knows
protective of her.
What she needs, and he tries to give it to her.
Well, that's Finneas has like sitcom grade pep talks.
Yeah, he does.
Constantly for his little sister, and he knows her better than anyone. He knows what she needs to hear. And he supplies it. We never see them squabble, I don't think, even once in this movie, which is crazy. But he is very sweet to her, very good. She clearly looks up to him, thinks that he is a very talented musician, as he is.
Well, he is. They both are. That's clear from this documentary above all else. They are good. There's a reason why they have made this album. And she swears never a second one. Spoiler alert, there was a second. But it's that hard for her, where she just feels like, I can't possibly ever do this. Yeah, well, I think that's interesting, because we wouldn't see that in an Ariana Grande documentary. That this is more honest, and it does show, I think, who these people actually are as much as you can on something that's being filmed.
That's right. I think there's a lot less filter and a lot less crafting of the image. Whether that's because it's so early in her career or because that is her image.
I think it's the second one. That's what I had the sense of. Is that her whole brand is, I am
unbranded.
Honest. Yes. I'm just going to be myself.
Well, it does feel a lot more authentic.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot more time with her off the stage. We do get quite a good amount of stage work, of course.
I mean, you're going to hear all her songs from the first album.
But the backstage stuff is the really interesting stuff, because you can hear her music anywhere. The backstage stuff, the tour bus stuff, the at-home stuff, getting her driver's license, washing her car, learning how to direct her own music videos, which I thought was really interesting to see that progression. She's so young, and of course the label is going to be very reticent to give her all that control with so little experience. But there's one scene where she's blocking her music video with her mom to send to the director, because she knows exactly what she wants. And Dad's just in the background picking up dog poop. And it's nice to know that they're still picking up their own dog poop, Their recording, their producing is very humble back then. Their studio isn't much of a studio. And yet they're very comfortable at home, and they're getting the job done. and stopping to do lots of secret handshakes. She's got a lot of secret handshakes with everyone. I don't know how she's keeping them all sorted.
Well, I'm not sure they're really all that regimented.
Fair enough. It was funny because we hear from her mom about a childhood crush she had on Justin Bieber.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
Which I find funny because she doesn't seem like a Bieber girl, but she is that age, and apparently she was a Bieber girl. So obsessed that her mother considered therapy because she was so obsessed with this guy. And then, as soon as her record is out, Justin Bieber wants to work with her, collaborate with her. And so just to see that sort of full circle moment, which is so sweet because clearly she's still so shy to be around him, even though he sees them more as equals now.
Yep.
And he came off as kind of sweet in this documentary.
He did.
I have to say.
He really did.
Like, he steps in as a mentor and he's really proud of them, and that was kind of sweet to see.
Very sweet. Yeah, it's surprising. Not just because it's Justin Bieber, but anyone. Like, he does seem to actually get where she is and try and bridge that gap. And it does look like they're actually friends, I think.
Yeah, and reaches out to her.
Yeah.
Which, it's something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a really sweet moment. It reminded me of Adele. I love Adele, too. She is famously a big fan of the Spice Girls. It's just always funny to learn, like, these really sort of embarrassing... Yeah. Because you don't think Spice Girls when you hear Adele, and you don't think Justin Bieber when you hear Billie Eilish, even though they've actually duetted together now. Anyways, I think these documentaries are interesting and important because the music industry is famously... it just chews up and spits out female entertainers especially. Yeah. And she is so young that it's kind of scary to see her have to go through that. But she clearly has a very tight family unit. They're really looking out for her. Her mother is like the little angel on her shoulder, like the moral compass of this whole thing, reminding her of who we are and the choices we're going to make. Yeah. And, she's not above, no matter how many hits on SoundCloud she's got or Spotify, her dad's still going to give her a dad talk. Yeah, and it feels very grounded still in normalcy, which is probably encouraging and a good indicator for her. We get to see her Coachella performance. During which she meets Katy Perry, who has some words of advice for her, but even more importantly, this is when Billie Eilish meets Orlando Bloom. Although the first time she meets him, does not understand that this is Orlando Bloom.
He's just some guy that Katy Perry met at Coachella, she thinks.
Yes. So then, like, in her dressing room or the trailer or whatever, her brother's, like, Googling Orlando Bloom and being like, it's this guy. And she's like, oh, I like this guy. Like, she does know Orlando Bloom. I guess he's a little underwhelming in person.
I mean, it is. He always has, he's risen to fame by playing people that he doesn't look like, I think.
Okay.
Of just like, like in Pirates of the Caribbean, he's all pirated up. And in Lord of the Rings, he's all elfed up. So, yeah. Maybe you wouldn't recognize him as a normal person. Wouldn't. But she doesn't.
She does not. So it's just really kind of sweet and innocent to see that happen. Yeah. And then, luckily, they run into each other a second time. In fact, he has to run to the bathroom, so he's asking her to delay the show until he gets back out, because he is actually a Billie Eilish fan. So she at least gets a second encounter knowing that this is Orlando Bloom. So just for, her own memory books, she can enjoy that. Just a little sidebar, it did make me think of the Britney Spears documentary that everyone's talking about, Framing Britney Spears. This is not up for comparison. They don't have... Obviously, Britney Spears has had 20 plus years of career behind her now, and she's still a young woman herself. Yeah. So it is scary to, Billie Eilish is at Hit Me Baby One More Time. This is her early days, and you hope that they will not have to go down the same path. Just for fans of Britney Spears in Canada, we have not been able to watch this documentary before now. But it is available now this weekend on Crave.
Oh.
So if you've been desperate to check that out, now you can.
Okay.
But yes, obviously Britney's been through some very bad times. And she continues to go through some bad times, I think unfairly right now. And that documentary certainly exposes some of the injustices in her life.
Yeah.
So I think just in the context of these two songstresses having documentaries out at the same time, you certainly see the urgency, the immediacy of hoping that Billie Eilish does go down a different path. Yeah. And that if nothing else, hopefully we've learned from these other careers how easily they can be thrown under the bus, really.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not sometimes just a singer-songwriter, sometimes you're a product. And that is not an easy way to live.
Nope, very true.
Mm-hmm. So I do think Billie Eilish, her look sometimes comes off as not curated, even though I think her look is just as carefully curated as anyone else's. It's just less emphasis on her actual body, her actual physical looks, which is obviously a great thing to see, a rare thing to see, which is why it gets so much press. Crazy. Because we don't talk about this stuff for boys at all. And yet for her, it's going to be a big deal. For me, it was a big deal because I saw her stuffing Louis Vuitton couture in a washing machine.
I had no idea she was doing anything wrong.
My little heart stopped. I clutched Sean's hand like we were watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
Because we were in that moment. Whew.
She explained it to me.
Yes. Oh my God. But we do see it's a learning curve, right?
Yeah,
this new life is different. And, she goes for a driver's license and she's like, oh, my mom drives a van, which is what I said when I got mine. But I never made $1 million to buy a nice car. And she did.
Yes, she did.
She did. So Billie Eilish is an undiva, an unpop star. She seems to have a good head on her shoulders.
She does.
She seems to be, taking this on her own terms. They did have to sort of emphasize a lot self-care because her body is breaking down on tour. She's putting it through a lot of stress. And like Sean said, really a high energy performance like hers, you need to train like an athlete, basically.
Yep. It is.
Sean was really wanted to
I was worried about
make her stretch before
yeah.
performances and stuff. But she does suffer physically. But of course, she's also suffering mentally.
Yeah.
As anyone would, I think, thrown into that situation. You're on the road, you're touring everywhere. The schedule is relentless in those early days. And then there's added pressures. She's writing James Bond songs. It turns out that she probably didn't need to turn that in as quickly as she did. That really,
that way, yes.
all that pressure for nothing.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, poor Finneas is trying to regulate everything and appease both sides, right? Keep his sister, who is the cash cow here, keep her feeling cool as a cucumber while also servicing the industry people who are demanding. And they don't really care about your mental health.
No.
They don't.
Because they'll go find another one.
That's right. They will use you all up.
Yeah.
And, if it's done, they will. You are like a replaceable commodity to them. So it's good to know that she's got good people surrounding her who do care. That's very important. So I have to say I enjoy this documentary. I enjoyed getting to know her. I think she is taking on her stardom in a different kind of way, and a way I hope will maybe pave a new path for people.
Hopefully.
So that every female performer doesn't have to go down the same one anymore.
That will be good.
Wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Wouldn't it?
Let's do it.
So, Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry, is available on Apple TV. It's a good documentary. There's lots of good music. You're gonna love it. So what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Enjoy, and thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.